Welcome to Voices of the Community, your window into the vital issues shaping Northern California. This episode is part of our second season of our Art and Culture series, which features highlights from the second annual California Arts and Culture Summit organized by our partner, California for the Arts. Join us for an inspiring panel discussion featuring leaders shaping the arts and culture landscape. Explore policy wins, statewide initiatives, and local legislative triumphs with Jennifer Lane, Megan Morgan, Shira Lane, Ann Bowen Crawford, Andrea Hansen, Felicia Shaw, Jonathan Gluss, and Lilia Gonzalez Chavez. Stay tuned and be inspired by their powerful work.
We have one more panel, and I'm really excited for this. It's a Pechacucha style panel, and our moderator will explain it a little bit more. This is when policy wins, updates, and visions for the future. Our moderator is our California Arts Advocates Board President and Executive Director of the San Benito County Arts Council, Jennifer Lane.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. We almost made it. Give yourselves a little pat on the back. This is the final session, of today. Welcome. We are using this last session here to conclude the day with policy wins, updates, and visions for the future. So as Nefesha said, I'm Jennifer Lane, Executive Director of the San Benito County Arts Council. We're a local arts agency based in Hollister, California. And then I'm very happy to have served on the board of Californians for the Arts for about 6 years. And I'm currently board president of California Arts Advocates, which is our lobbying side organization to CFTA. So this afternoon, I'm really honored to welcome 7 incredible arts leaders who will be exploring recent policy updates in the arts sector and sharing key insights into statewide initiatives. This presentation will happen very quickly. We're doing a Pechacucha style delivery, and you might be asking yourselves, what is that? I had a really unsavory joke planned and was told, don't say that. But it kind of wordplay with Pechacucha. So this presentation, it's 20 slides with 20 seconds each. So it forces the presenters to be very concise, very quick with their content, and it keeps everything flowing. So, you should be very invigorated, energized, and it's a great way to conclude today's summit. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speakers. We have Jonathan Gluss, who's director of the Arts and Culture Office for the City of San Diego, and Felicia Shaw, Executive Director of the San Diego Arts Matters.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so we're here representing the Far South. And so I'm Felicia Shaw. I'm wearing 3 hats today as Executive Director of San Diego Art Matters, formerly the San Diego Regional Arts and Culture Coalition. I'm on the board of California Arts Advocates, and also a commissioner for the newly formed San Diego County Arts and Culture Commission. Okay, so speaking of wins, about 25 years ago, the San Diego Arts Commission was folded. And so the big win for us is that we got it back. It took years and years of advocacy. We had to kick a bunch of county board members off, and we got it back. And so with the newly formed Arts Commission back, low-hanging fruit, what do? No money, no budget. The first thing we did was looked at some of our policies, public art policies, and we were able to get a county arts commissioner on one of the public art committees so that we can have influence. A second thing we did was, hey, why not try and get a new grants program inputted? And this was really huge for us because we had an opportunity to have a public-private partnership with a local foundation. They put $500,000 in. We were able to influence the county to put $500,000 in. And all of a sudden, we have a new grants program. Big win for us. Boy, that was fast. What did I miss? Did I miss something? I did. No. I didn't. Okay. No. All right. All right.
Felicia, so I'm Jonathan Gluss. I'm the Director of Cultural Affairs for the City of San Diego and the Executive Director of Commission for Arts and Culture. This is a big win for San Diego County. Advocacy partnerships. We're talking about data and partnerships today. This is the first time that we did a county-wide AEP6 study. Huge, huge, huge for San Diego. $1.4 billion in economic activity. These are the partners. These are all of the local arts agencies in San Diego County, plus Balboa Park, Cultural Partnership, in partnership with what used to be SD-RAC. Here are the cities: Carlsbad, Coronado, Encinitas, Escondido, Oceanside Cultural District, City of San Diego, Balboa Park Cultural District. Together, all of those gave us the data to have the county's first arts and economic impact study.
Can I add
Huge
one thing?
win.
One of the reasons why this is a win is not that we have the data, is that they're using it.
Far south border north, you guys all did the advocacy work to get Creative Core. This is a partnership that came out of advocacy. Art Matters, City of San Diego, and Catalyst, which is the philanthropic organization for Imperial County and San Diego County. Huge new step in partnership and alliances. Advocacy partnerships, Penny for the Arts. Anybody who knows San Diego, Penny for the Arts is a very big deal. City Council unanimously recommitted to Penny for the Arts. I'm going to come back afterwards. Advocacy data, Creative Economy Study. Updated the Creative Economy Study for San Diego County. $1.8 billion in economic activity, 1.11 million. I'm going to come back to that. Sorry, guys. Access and equity. We did an audit of the Arts and Culture Commission in 2019. We looked at finance, purchasing, procurement, legal. What are the racial and equity barriers in our procedures? What we did was reduce barriers down to one-to-one funding match. 80% of our funding is now upfront, not reimbursement. Reduced insurance requirements, 2-year nonprofit status. Impact, we now have an impact grants program. What that means is we directly fund organizations in our promise zone and communities of concern. State law doesn't allow us to invest in BIPOC organizations. What we can do is invest in those neighborhoods where the BIPOC organizations are doing the work for those communities. City artist category, we now have an individual artist category. That's huge. It's in city ordinance, which means it can't be taken away unless it goes to city council. It is not funded yet. So we have to do the advocacy work, but it's huge that the City of San Diego has an individual artist grants program now. Black Arts District, we established it 18 months ago in our historic African American neighborhood Diamond District in Southeast San Diego. Hugely important for that community. On the horizon, we are establishing a downtown arts district in and around our performing arts centers. That's a traditional arts district, but that's going to allow us to drive additional funding sources into that district. Wow, I'm in front. All right, the biggest thing, Creative City. The city's first cultural plan is going to go to City Council at the end of the calendar year. That is equity-centered, artist-centered, a big emphasis on affordable housing, live workspace for the artists. For the first time, we are centering artists in our work. Binational focus, and we can't do it alone, so we're doing it with partners across the region. And that's it, guys.
Thank you. We did it. Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan, Felicia. Great examples of how they're using data and really translating that into policy wins in San Diego. Next up, I'd like to welcome Lilia Gonzalez Chavez, Executive Director of the Fresno Arts Council.
And here we go. In 2018, 8/3 of the sales tax initiative was passed by voters in the city of Fresno. This tax supports increased parks and arts. A community coalition overcame a legal battle and influential opponents. The initiative is also known as the Fresno Clean and Safe Neighborhood Parks Transaction and Use Tax, a name carefully crafted to entice voters who were aligned with law enforcement, our major opposition. Note, no mention of the arts. 88% of the overall funding is dedicated to parks for acquisition of property, for new parks, maintenance, sports, and arts activities, park rangers, capital expenditures for facilities in parks, and so much more. 12% of the funding is dedicated to the arts, to be distributed in a competitive grant process to nonprofit arts organizations for general operating support and project-specific grants, a real game changer for arts organizations. The passage of this initiative was a huge win for City of Fresno residents who will gain quality of life amenities, economic benefits derived from tourism and greater property values, and of course, increased community art programs. Youth working with the Youth Leadership Institute and Fresno Building Healthy Communities emphatically raised the issue of a lack of green space and opportunities for recreation. Youth had been actively involved in creating the City Parks Master Plan and wanted to see it implemented, but with no funding from the city, how would these new green spaces be paid for? An initiative was called for, but who would lead it and at what cost? Tree Fresno picked up the mantle and began gathering support and strategizing to develop a campaign. With limited resources, many potential partners were skeptical. Yet they remained cautiously optimistic because of other successes. One such success was Measure Z, a 1/10 of a cent sales tax for the zoo. It has created a world-class facility that has quickly made Fresno a tourist destination and demonstrated good use of a sales tax. As the parks movement evolved, a coalition of arts advocates were also meeting to discuss a possible fund for the arts. Prior experience had taught us that the arts could not earn enough votes to wage a campaign alone. We needed a partner. The arts were not part of the original Measure P conversation. In fact, as arts advocates proposed coming together, we were rebuked for fear that we would draw needed money from parks, and there was just not enough to go around. To understand this, consider that only 79% of residents graduated high school and 22.1% live in poverty. Disposable income is limited, and conservative voters might not support art. We hung on for 3 long years, attending meeting after meeting, suggesting that the arts would make a worthy partner. We gradually gained allies. We believed in the need for parks, but also knew how important it was to include the arts. As the momentum of the initiative moved forward, the gentle but steady beat of the mention of arts as a partner grew to a crescendo. Parks and arts, parks and arts. We earned valuable friends who proved to be important to the campaign. When the Coalition for the Parks began to seek funds, they learned that arts patrons had the bucks and would substantially fund their campaign if arts were fully integrated into the initiative. It was then we were invited to the table. A new conversation started. We became full participants in the discussion of fund distribution and how much would be dedicated to the arts. Through this process, We managed to get arts included in part of the Parks Fund, too. Once on board, we engaged all partners and grassroots tactics to move the initiative forward. It passed with 52% of the vote, but was denied by the city because it did not get 2/3 support of the electorate. A court battle ensued. And thanks to Sandra Celadon and the Fresno Building Healthy Communities team, we prevailed. The court declared that the legislature's intent was passage with a simple majority for citizen-led initiatives. In August of 2023, the City Council approved an agreement granting the Fresno Arts Council a 5-year contract to manage the expanded access to the Arts and Culture Grant Program and adopted a cultural arts plan to guide spending of the 12%. We are on our way in our first grant cycle and elated. I went too fast. We are in our first grant cycle and elated to support the arts community with approximately $5 million annually. Oh, did I mention this is a 30-year initiative?
Thank you, Lilia. What an incredible story emerging out of Fresno, one part of the state that is, consistently, historically underfunded. So kudos to you, Lilia, incredible work. Staying in the Central Valley, I'm really pleased to welcome Andrea Hansen, Executive Director of the Kern Dance Alliance and Program Director of the KDA Creative Corps.
I'm here to tell you a story of triumph. It begins in a place where the odds are stacked so high against you that it makes it difficult to breathe. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, this is a story of hope and of life and of better things to come. The Central Valleys, specifically the southern Central Valleys, have never received significant public arts funding, which has suffocated the growth of our communities. There's a reason Bakersfield, as well as many other small Central Valley cities, are the last on your mind when you think about arts and culture in the state of California. Even though our state arts council emerged in 1976, the Central Valleys have remained strangled because we struggle with the realization that we too can be competitive in the 5th largest economy, representing some of the greatest arts, culture, and entertainment experiences in the world. We've been labeled as a perpetual underdog, living in some of the most disparate conditions. To further compound matters, the arts have never been used as an essential part of our region's economic growth. As a working artist, I had a vision of breathing fresh air into my community by using the arts not just for entertainment, but as a way to boost our cultural identity and to impact our economic vitality. With $20 in my bank account to do so, my vision was unrecognizable by so many in my community because very few had ventured to use the arts as a transformative way to uplift everyday people living in Kern County. But I knew that the Central Valley deserved to be competitive. And as a result, Kern Dance Alliance took its first breath. My name is Andrea Hansen, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kern Dance Alliance and the Program Director for the KDA Creative Corps. And today, we are breathing fresh air. Since 2015, KDA has been uplifting our Central Valley communities by using the arts to create cross-sector programs that teach educational endeavors like math and reading, and decrease our health disparities by helping people with dementia and with disabilities. and of most importance, help to uplift everybody in our community, specifically those that are the most marginalized. We've been intentional about growing the capacity for our artists, while also increasing the ways in which they engage in public work. Because of our commitment and dedication to advancing the arts in our region, the California Arts Council took notice, and they recognized our capacity to do more. As a result, we were awarded a historic and unprecedented opportunity to implement a program that was meant to grow the arts in the Central Valley. In August of 2022, KDN was awarded $4.2 million to implement the inaugural California Creative Corps program, a program that is focused on creating arts jobs while also improving the quality of life for people living in the lowest quartile of the California Helping Places Index. In the last year, we've been able to create 652 arts jobs, serving 14 counties and 110 zip codes. We have produced more than 30,000 workforce hours, and we have generated over 138 million media impressions. 70% of our grantees are first-time grantees, and for the first time in the Central Valleys, our local governments are recognizing that the arts can be a part of the solution to solving the delicate issues we all face together as a society, like lifting people up out of poverty, decreasing crime and violence, and ending homelessness. It's true. A small local arts agency can make big impacts. As we stand on the precipice of a new era in the Central Valleys, we are breathing fresh air, but we will not forget the journey that brought us here. When all of the odds were stacked against us and we struggled to breathe, a gust of fresh air was emerging. That fresh air, wrapped up in public funding for the arts in the Central Valleys, is giving us new life. The future of KDA is not just about what we do, but it's about who we are. As we forge ahead and recarve new pathways, we will be bold, we will be ambitious, and we will be unapologetic. We pledge to support the creatives that inspire ingenuity, because artwork is real work, and art is the breath of life. Community collaborations are the backbone of our organization, and together we are creating trailblazing programs and implementing groundbreaking experiences for people living in the Central Valleys. We stand here to make the arts great in the Central Valleys because of those spaces that are experiencing pure joy because of the arts. And our history is just beginning in the Central Valleys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrea. Wow, what a great sharing in such a visceral way of art saving lives in the Central Valley through the Creative Corps program and all the great work of your organization. Next up, I'm pleased to welcome Megan Morgan, the Race and Equity Manager at the California Arts Council. Welcome, Megan.
Tall girl. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm going to start off by admitting to you all that I'm probably what you might call a classic overthinker. Anybody else? So in preparing for this, you can imagine what I was going through in 6.5 minutes. I reflect on just about everything deeply, and as an empathic person, I often legitimately feel strongly about multiple viewpoints sharing the spotlight. At home and in school growing up, my nickname was actually Switzerland, and whenever there was a disagreement, I'd be asked to weigh in because I'd give everyone's opinion a listen and respond kindly, even if I didn't totally agree. Struggling with making decisions and my own analysis paralysis, I think, honestly began when I was even younger, when my great-grandfather Charles would give me 25 cents a week to go to the corner store and get a treat. I'd arrive in the store and be overwhelmed with choices. What would it be? Or did I want to save up for a few weeks to buy something even bigger? Candy store dilemmas are funny now, but as I've grown older, I realize that the root of much of my decision scrutiny is tied to a lens of equity, as I both witnessed and experienced the inequities of the world around me. Last June, I started at the California Arts Council as the Race and Equity Manager, and as a woman, an immigrant, and a person of color, I've learned to understand that multiple things can be true at the same time, like intersectionality, conscious and unconscious bias, as well as good intentions with unintended consequences. And the more that we all discover about our shared and inequitable history as people living in a hierarchical society brings sobering awareness and a place to reflect, reimagine, and redesign a better future. This awareness can also bring a new level of uncertainty about our lives. And if there's one thing people don't like to feel, it's uncertain. Split-second decision-making often happens in sports and in life or death situations, for example, when time is and must be of the essence for critical life or organizational function. The same sense of urgency in decision-making can start to permeate more aspects of our lives than we think, and this is where our unconscious biases can start to show up. FOMO, or fear of missing out, keeps us scrolling on our phones, checking messages, emails, news, social media, to see what other people are doing, but how by proxy we can understand and be part of their lives too. As humans, we're looking for connection, but capitalist systems tend to lull us into thinking we're part of things through buying our way in. But when it comes to making important decisions, much of that research shows we aren't achieving the kind of FOMO that leads to the more equitable outcomes that most of us say that we're striving for. So why is that? And what do we do about it? The last several years, the CAC has worked with several consultants to do a series of arts landscape field scans, equity surveys, and research. And while the findings were many, a few of the wins we discovered were that funding dollars distributed from the CAC were actually found to be slightly more equitable in terms of benefiting BIPOC and those living in rural locations, as Andrea just illuminated, compared to other California non-arts profits in general. This was the case even though the CAC does not and cannot base granting decisions based on race or the demographics of the community served, Prop 209. We also realize there is still a lot more work to do and that equity work is really hard work. Our next win was launching and now regularly using something called the Decision Support Tool, or the DST. This is a lot to digest at once. So back in 2020, the agency released a 7-year strategic framework. Embedded within it is a commitment to racial equity, and specifically something called a Decision Support Tool. It's essentially an equity-focused tool and worksheet with 20 questions to be asked and answered by our staff or council members when they're making a decision. So they're doing research, seeking out who will this decision benefit, who might experience consequences. Implicit bias research shows us that when we slow down and take the time to ask and answer questions, we're less likely to revert to the kind of thinking that activates our biases. So the DST is helping us to win in developing a more equitable organizational culture. So I'm here talking about all this today because I want to ask if there's a series of questions that you can ask yourself or your organization to be able to slow down your urgent decision making. What questions might encourage a bit of healthy FOMO so that your equity aperture is ready to expand and impact the landscape around you more, the arts landscape specifically? Let's bring it back to the candy store for a moment, wrap it up. Well, I don't think my 25 cents would go very far at the corner store anymore. I'd love to encourage you to try one of my overthinker childhood approaches and our DST in your upcoming decision making. How could you use your 25 cents in a way that you might not have thought of before? If you save up your 25 cents over time, what bigger, longer-term goals could be accomplished? Can your 25 cents be used to do some research? Who do you know that really needs that 25 cents to keep going? What's the potential future return on investment for that initial 25 cents? So the next time an urgent decision is put before you, I encourage you to spend real time discussing it in depth and seriously consider alternatives not immediately apparent. Research suggests that making decisions based on 3 to 6 choices rather than opposing binaries is more effective and reduces the paradox of choice. And I just wanted to close with a quote from the psychologist Viktor Frankl that I discovered in the last few weeks preparing for this. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this engaging panel discussion, Policy Wins, Updates, and Visions for the Future. This program is brought to you with support from these wonderful sponsors, along with viewers and listeners just like you who make community conversations like this possible. Voices of the Community is made possible by generous support from the Zellerbach Family Foundation, dedicated to ensuring vibrant work is created, new voices celebrated, and diverse communities have opportunities to thrive. Learn more at zff.org. We're also supported by the Peaceful World Foundation, fostering a culture of global peace through hosted conversations and education. Discover more at peacefulworldfoundation.org. Before we get back to our panel discussion on key developments in cultural policy, let's hear from a leading voice in the arts community of San Benito County. Co-host Eduardo Robles sits down with Jennifer Lane, the Executive Director of the San Benito Arts Council.
Hi, Eduardo Robles with Californians for the Arts and Voices of the Community here at the second annual California Arts and Culture Summit in Sacramento, California. I'm here with Jennifer Lane, our board member. Hi. Jennifer. Hi. So Jennifer is leading a panel, Policy Wins, Updates, and Visions for the Future.
You got it. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, what the updates and the visions?
Sure. So this panel is the last session of the day, and really it's just going to summarize all the good work and discussions we've been having all day long. It's a great way to conclude today, the summit, and really inspire everybody and get them ready for tomorrow, which is Arts Advocacy Day at the Capitol, where all of our super awesome and incredible arts advocates will be meeting with their state elected officials and talking about really important policy wins, policy things on the horizon in terms of funding and legislation that we really want to push forward to support our creative sector in California. So our session today really, it's been a long day. We've taken a lot in. So it's a really fast-moving Pecha Kucha style presentation, which will be these quick presentations on various policy wins throughout the state, happening both at the local level. We're featuring Measure P in Fresno, and also statewide initiatives such as the California Creative Corps program and Arts in California Parks. So again, it's a great way to close out the day. We're going to hit the grassroots level, we're going to hit the high level, and really inspire people on how they can get more involved in government to really advocate and push these policies forward that are favorable to our sector.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Do you want to talk a little bit more about,
I'm interviewing you.
Yeah, here. Thanks. Yeah, no. What are some of these wins, or, speak a little bit more on the work that you're advancing?
Sure. So one I can speak really in more detail about is the California Creative Corps program, in part because it's one that I'm closely involved in on the Central Coast. So this was one-time funding kind of coming out of COVID, relief funding to really put artists in service, working closely with government agencies and community-based organizations to address really nutty community challenges around public health, civic engagement, social justice, and climate impact. So one of the panelists this afternoon will be from the Kern Dance Alliance that is working on a Creative Corps program there. I want to say there's around 14 to 20 Creative Corps programs happening throughout the state, but we're really towards the end of this program. It was a policy win because we were able to get arts funding out into the field and then really try to pilot these examples of artists working closely inside government and community-based organizations. So how are artists
great second responders? How are they trusted messengers in their community? How can they help address all these challenges at the local level? Where we're at is, this funding's set to expire. We'll be gathering all this data here on the Central Coast. We'll be producing a case study on the work that we've been doing because we want to continue to advocate for this funding. We know that the state is facing a major budget crisis that probably lasts longer than a year, unfortunately. But once we're in a bit of a better situation, we want to make sure that the state reinvests in these programs. So reinvest in the Creative Corps, reinvest in cultural districts, and in creative youth development. Creative youth development, of course, supports that pipeline of young artists and creatives so that we continue to build California's future creative workforce.
Thank you so much. So what are your visions for the future? I mean, we saw, some of those wins and, Creative Corps about to expire. How are we kind of like mobilizing, to prove, the value of art workers to invest more? Are there emerging opportunities? How do we tap into those opportunities?
Yeah, I think despite the challenges and the funding ups and downs that we all deal with, we're gradually making change. We just have to keep, advocating, keep fighting. Every day we're taking a step forward in the right direction. What I would like to see, and I think this is something that we've really learned from the Creative Corps, is, wow, an artist with a full-time salary and benefits. It's magic, and the thing is, it shouldn't be magic. Artists are entitled, just like every other worker, to a livable, predictable, sustainable wage with healthcare benefits, with retirement, so they can live and thrive in California. That's what I would like to see, and I think everybody here wants to see that. Moreover, we want to see it in the schools. We want to see it in public spaces and in our communities. These are, things that we value. We value beauty. We value connection and belonging, and this is what we can do as artists.
In your experience with the Creative Corps, what has been a very productive relationship with a department, or where do you see, I guess, again, these opportunities for building for the future? Who is more dialed in than another department?
Yeah. I think what's really exciting is to hear people talking about art, to hear people talking with artists that don't normally do that. In my small county of San Benito, art is not a regular topic at our county board of supervisors meetings, but one of the projects is with Venencia Prudencio, who was a panelist here today. She's a local artist in my community, a Creative Corps artist, and she's working closely with our Department of Elections and doing a lot of, arts-based outreach around voter registration, voter education, getting the youth involved in the elections process. And so to see, these kind of non-arts folks talking about this work, being creative themselves, coming up with creative solutions to problems they're facing in their offices or out in the community, I think is really exciting. And then, there's also sort of this meta level of collaboration that was new because of Creative Corps. So we've been able to work really closely with 6 other county arts agencies from Ventura all the way up, to Santa Cruz and inland to San Benito County. And so that collaboration through the Creative Corps has extended into other opportunities. For instance, we're gathering around a creative economy forum with an economic organization. We're also gathering around what was formerly called the SURF program, but now it's called California Jobs First, but really workforce investment in different regions in California. So, there's this kind of meta level collaboration that's been really beneficial, and then just, the local impact as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think I was also thinking of what's this creative Bill of Rights, or where is the sector? What's the big thing, the game changer for California in terms of art workers, creative workers? Like you said, there's partnerships with, these departments, these pilot partnerships, but, how do we kind of like shore up and, legitimize through policy? This week we have the Creative Workforce Act. Can you talk a little bit more on maybe that, or also the Creative Economy Strategy Plan, Strategic Plan? It seems like we're really moving into, the future.
Yeah. It's so funny because this word, the future, is coming up a lot all of a sudden. And one really interesting part of that is the state, another policy win was this approval of $1 million to go to the California Arts Council to convene a creative economy work group to develop a strategic plan for California's creative industries. The Institute for the Future has been contracted to lead this strategic planning process. And so, this meshing of futurist thinking and planning for the future of our creative workforce is happening right now. And so I think, we talk a lot about the work that we're doing now at the ground level, but really what signals are we hearing, are we seeing that's going to drive this vision for the future? Where are we moving with AI, with technology, with education, with climate? Housing's a huge issue. And so I think we absolutely have to kind of put ourselves in that mindset of, yes, we have our challenges now, but where are we headed and how can we really proactively steer that vision in a productive way that will benefit all artists?
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking the time to talk, and delighted for your panel.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Okay.
Welcome back to where art meets impact in our panel discussion, policy wins, updates, and visions for the future. Before the break, we explored groundbreaking policy updates and celebrated statewide and local legislative victories in the arts sector. Now, let's rejoin our panelists as they continue to share their visionary ideas and impactful strategies shaping the future of arts, culture, and creativity.
Thank you, Megan. That was some great insight into how the CAC is slowing down and using its own tools and feedback systems to question its own policies and the decisions they're putting forth to really advance equity across the state. Next up, I'd like to welcome Ann Bound-Crawford, artist, designer, and consultant at ABC Etc. Design Consultancy.
Lots of familiar faces out there. So, I'm Ann Bound-Crawford. I am a consultant for state parks and local parks for a program, an amazing program that involves, and parks is a theme, it seems like today. And I'm going to talk to you about a true cross-sector policy win and partnership, and really defines cross-sector collective impact. And that's this program. It's a program that is deeply rooted in California for All and Outdoors for All, which comes from the governor's office, and the re-examining our past initiative that Parks is using to take stock of and re-examine their relationships to the land. The mission, and I know this is text heavy, you can get the deck afterwards or call me up. The mission of this is to support artists, culture bearers, California Native American tribes and communities in creating artwork that really truly offers a perspective on our past. The goals of it are, the whole program is to welcome people, especially the populations that are around parks, into the parks. So they know that this is their park, to empower mentorship and job opportunities. It's a job creation program, and to use the arts to heal. The main partners in this, of course, California State Parks, the state agency, Parks California, who works closely with local parks and state parks, and California Arts Council. We have an advisory committee, and I'm slow, of about 15 members. This is a brief overview, a graphic of the timeline. It's funding $25 million that will last until 2027 when we do the evaluation. You can see that round 1 for state parks went out and round 2 for local parks that launched last Friday, so keep track of that. There's an artist directory in the program for any artist in the state of California who wants to work with parks. And that directory will be searchable with park staff as well as the general public. So sign up if you're an artist. And this is a brief overview of the categories that that we currently have for both state and local parks that artists can work within. There are also multi-park categories, these are for specific categories, and then there will be multi-park projects that will run throughout the state. Poetry in the Parks, starting this weekend in Santa Barbara. Join me there. Yeah. Touring, we talked a lot about touring and bringing it back. State Parks is bringing it back. The state parks role, oh nuts, my fonts didn't come through. Well, that's too bad. State Parks is in this program to raise the awareness and build capacity in the park staff to help them realize the importance of bringing art into the parks and the importance of creating partnerships and create sustainability in the communities around them. You can see here there are 280 parks in the state. They're broken up into 21 districts. Pilot projects are happening now. You can go to the website to see what you can visit and see what's happening. There are parks that already started. So if you live in the LA area, you might have seen the procession project that started. So round 2 for state parks is starting to launch now. Park staff, inspired by what is happening now and wanting to test out new projects, they're pitching their projects to state parks internal review panel right now. That'll happen, and the selection process, that'll happen through May. The selection process takes place in June. And then the call for artists for those state parks projects will go out in the fall. The local parks, I guarantee that my slide doesn't look that poopy on it. So. The local parks program is meant to fill in those gaps between state parks in local parks and create jobs, build and strengthen partnerships, not just with artists and park staff, but with whole communities, arts organizations, and to create a multi-grant program that will create rich community connections. That's how you create sustainability for any program, if you build those connections. This is a brief overview of the launch that just happened on Friday. There are 2 types of grant opportunities, one for design and implementation. We're giving people time to think about what could be done and to gather their partnerships together. And then the implementation grants of actually bringing something to fruition. The program itself already has some pretty rich resources available on the website, an online resource hub, the templates, the artist directory, of course. I'm going to keep saying that because I want people to register. Yeah. There's evaluation and reporting that will be happening from now forward. This is a QR code. If you scan that, you can sign up for the webinar tomorrow morning for how to apply for, like, go get the money. I used to do this when I'd go around the state and say, go get our money. So you can scan the code and sign up for the webinar. You can join the mailing list. You can sign up for the artist directory. Ultimately, we want everyone to feel like their parks are where they live, and they can see themselves reflected in that. It takes work, and it takes all of us to make that happen. So this is a cross-sector collective impact that is funded and wonderful, and I want you all to go get the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, the Arts and Parks, California Parks program is a $25 million policy win. And I really encourage you, as soon as you get home, reach out to your local parks people. It's another great opportunity at these cross-sector partnerships that really benefit artists and the broader community. Finally, as our last presenter, I'd like to welcome Shira Lane. founding executive director of Atrium 916. 916.
Hi, I'm Shira, founding. Thank you. So I'm kind of nervous today. I don't know why, but I am. When I started this, I never imagined that I would start a nonprofit. And definitely when I started, I had no idea what advocacy was. I thought it was a politicky word that meant lots of talking, not a lot of walking. So the Atrium is the intersection between an arts organization, an economic development organization, and an environmental organization. Where those collide, that's where the Atrium exists. We're all about being omni-considerate. That means taking into consideration everything, and we serve about 850 creatives in the region. We didn't start that way. We started as Upcycle Pop, a market for upcycled and repurposed items. It was interactive. You could watch artists make stuff. You could hear live music. You could immerse yourself into art installations that educated on sustainability. We started doing those, and the artists, and it was in an abandoned building, and the artists wanted more, and we did another one, and they got better and better and better. Until the artists were like, hey, we really like this building. Let's turn this into a co-working space. And I was like, no, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm busy. I can't do that. But then the landlord said, hey, I really like what you're doing. Why don't you turn this into a co-working space? Okay. So then we did, but I said, we're only going to do it if we're doing it zero waste. And we're going to try, and we educated on how to do zero waste events, and we started getting more artists that were doing zero waste stuff. And pretty quickly, we grew into about 18 organizations within 6 months. We had artist studios, dance studios, labs that were making beer that was more sustainable. We had all kinds of things going on there, drone races. And we called it the Atrium because we had a big building and it had a huge atrium with trees in the middle of it. But also the atrium is the upper chamber of your heart that accepts all the blood. And we hope that as people walk through the atrium, they would come and they would be more inspired with more oxygen and ready to do more for the community and the environment. As we grew, we realized we needed to get official, and we started doing creative economy meetings. And that was a way for us to really learn how can we better serve our community. These were awesome. They grew. Oh my God, it's going so fast, sorry. They grew, and we realized they grew so much that it was great because we could connect artists with other artists, we could listen to what they needed, and it was great because we could invite city officials to come to these meetings in a completely different capacity. It wasn't a city meeting, it was us, and they were listening. I'll get to all this, sorry. But in 2019, the city approached me and said, hey, we don't have any money, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then Dennis Mangers and Allison Cagley, who's here today, mentored me and said, hey, okay, we're going to take your creative economy meetings, people, and we're going to mobilize them. And we advocated, and we were able to go from $0 to $1.9 million. Thank you. That was all of us. This is not just me. I'm just the voice. Right now, I'm going to get to this. So later on, Carts for the Arts. We realized that cartridges, vape cartridges, were being thrown away. They're being marketed as disposable. You can't dispose these vape cartridges. You throw them in the trash, they explode. Yeah, they're connected, so they've got lithium ion batteries. So if you put it in e-waste, you can't put it in e-waste because it's got the cannabis oil on it, and you can't take it to the cannabis waste because it's got the lithium ion battery on it. And so you really literally can only hold on to it. And this was a big problem. So we created, I'm going to get to all of you. We created an art exhibit that was made out of cartridges, and we created an arts panel that went with it. And that was a panel with manufacturers, and that was a panel with policy advisory people, and we got together and it got national news. But what was more important is after that exhibit finished, that group continued to meet. They became a working group, and eventually they were able to pass legislation that eliminated them being able to market that as disposable and change and force the marketers, the distributors, and the producers to change their design. So, thank you. Art, we can make huge differences, and that's where I'm getting at. So, I'll hurry up. COVID happened. We had to do our creative economy meetings online, and we were able to help hundreds of people. So artists could not get unemployment. They could not apply for the PPP. A lot of them were just lost. We had hundreds. And so we quickly got online and we brought in the city. It was great because then the city officials were able to actually hear from the local artists what was really going on, and they could hear from hundreds of artists. And then we mobilized that. And with that, we were able to raise about $20 million through the CARES Fund, and later on another $10 million from ARPA. And that all went directly to artists. Not all of it, sorry. A lot of it went directly to artists. And it was the first time that the city ever gave money directly to the artists. And that was because they had that creative direct relationship, and we built that relationship. So I think that's really important. Out of that program, we started a Sacramento.shop. I'm gonna get to all this. We started Sacramento.shop. It was a way to help artists because we knew as COVID was happening, things were gonna get closed up. They wouldn't be able to do their markets. They weren't gonna have any way to make money. A lot of artists kind of get their funding from festivals and markets. So we decided we need to get them online as quickly as possible. So we created a program and we got them online. We photographed, we built a platform to sell, and we did an online platform, kind of like a little FU to Amazon. We did same-day delivery, we did it all. And that program was also about sustainability. It was about circular economy. If you had packaging, you as a producer or maker needed to accept your packaging back because we wanted it to be a zero waste, and that's circular economy. It's creating an economy without any waste. That got the attention of Heidi again, who I worked with on the Carts for the Arts, and she was like, hey, I really like what you're doing here. I want to invite you to be on the SB 54 implementation thing. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but if Heidi says jump, I say how high. So I jumped into that. So SB 54, yeah, gotta go. SB 54 is a really big bill. It's a really big bill, and it's extended producer responsibility. And what that means is that the plastic producers now have to pay for the damage their plastic is creating. Yeah. And what that means is that now, so there's going to organize an organization that will collect money from these producers, and that organization is going to distribute that money to do mitigation, source reduction, which includes reuse. And that's why we were brought in. And we were brought into implementation just to kind of give you what implementation means. When a bill passes, which is great, and that's all great, but then there's the implementation part where it goes now to the department, and the department has to figure out how the heck do we do this? And that is a public process as well, that you should get involved with. So if you have passed something, you should get involved with. And because you also build relationships. So in that process, it was really cool to hear that my suggestions, my ideas, my concepts were actually implemented into regulations. It's kind of wild. But you guys are creatives, and you can do that too, because these are people that are in this arena of policy. We call them policy wonks. And they're like got narrow tunnel vision. They don't often see the big picture. They need creatives like you to come there and tell them like, hey, have you thought about this? And have you seen it from this perspective? And they actually really appreciate it. They really do. I know, I gotta go. Okay, and the future, one second. Sorry, I'm taking it. The future where I want to see is creatives going out. You have superpowers. Use them. Thank you.
Okay, wow. Well, I hope you all got to witness some really wonderful examples of coalition building, using data for storytelling, cross-sector partnering, and just fierce advocacy to advance policy goals and to work towards a more equitable, creative future for all of us here in California. I'd like to welcome all the panelists back out onto the stage for a final round of applause. Thank you all, and I believe everyone has their full bio in the digital program, so if you want to reach out, it should be in there, and thank you again for all your work. Okay. Okay, we've made it. With that, I'm so honored to welcome the incredible, inspiring, and absolutely unstoppable Julie Baker to the mic.
Thank you.
Well, friends, we've made it. It's been a very long day. How do you feel? I feel really great because I'm so inspired by all of you. And I want to say that I was listening to the open mic, and the open mic was a very important portion of this because I think it's really important that we hear from your voices what's going on, what we're missing, and I want to acknowledge what we heard and how important that is, and that every event should give people the chance to share and hopefully feel the safety to share how they feel. So with that, I just want to thank you all for being present and engaged today. I'd like to thank Unseen Heroes, our logistics partner, the Sophia Theater, the stage crew, the people in the booth, right? The wonderful artists from Lunar Soul who made all of these beautiful graphics, and I happened to buy a dress that matched. The Bay Area Video Coalition and Voices of the Community who have been backstage and around all this time interviewing people, and they're going to be segments that are going to be on radio and public TV. And the caterers who kept us fed. Oh, I guess I should say advance the slides. Okay, so we will, I guess I'm going to say this. We are starting an advisory council, and these are our first advisory council members. Michael Alexander, I see you here. Wonderful. Thank you, Michael, who's been involved in arts and culture for 55 years, and led by our co-chairs Rachel Osajima and Victoria Hamilton. I'm not sure if they're in the room still. There's Rachel, thank you. This is the beginning. These are former board members, and it will grow. This is just the first portion of as we're starting our advisory council. Next slide, please. Tomorrow, who's going to Advocacy Day? Advocacy Day is a free event that we produce. We have over 280 people, this is a record for us, who registered to be a part of Advocacy Day. We have over, I think, 200 meetings or something like that. I don't know the statistics, but it's because I don't do this portion. Because we have a team, and that's a remarkable thing. And we have a team because of you all who are members, and we have a team because of our sponsors and our funders, and our annual funders. And without that, including our grant from the California Arts Council, and including the foundations that support us, we couldn't produce a free Advocacy Day. So I hope you'll join us tomorrow at 9 a.m., which means our team will be there much earlier. In Capitol Park, it's called Area 27. I'm sure you all will find us there. And there'll be a rally between 9 and 11 a.m. We'll be honoring some of our Art Star legislative awards, as well as Mayor Darrell Steinberg, who has been an incredible supporter for the arts here in Sacramento and has been a terrific supporter of Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month since its inception in 2019. So I hope you'll join us tomorrow for Advocacy Day, and such an important thing. And I want to thank the team, the field engagement team, led by Tracy Hudak and Jenica Bisbee and Martha Dempson, for all their incredible work to produce that event. It's going to be amazing. Next slide. Okay, so these are all the people that made this happen today in terms of the financial support. And all of you who do these events know it's very, very expensive. I heard the feedback in terms of the ticket price. Let's get some more funders to underwrite this event so we can make this accessible for everybody. We want to do that. We have to also run our own business and make this make sense. That is part of our responsibility so that we can be a sustainable organization. I know all of you understand that. But at the same time, let's find those funders who can make it so everyone can afford to be here, and let's bust it out. Let's be 800 strong. Let's be 1,000 strong at the California Arts and Culture Summit. But we want to thank all of these folks up on the screen who made this happen for us today. So please thank our sponsors and our annual funders. And I want to specifically shout out the Arts and Culture Department at the City of Sacramento. Megan, are you still in the room? and her team. They're doing great work in the city of Sacramento, as you've heard in so many places around the state that this is happening. But we've always had our home here for the summit and for Advocacy Day, so thank you. Next slide. I have to shout out again our board because, again, I mean, all of you who are involved in nonprofits, have been a part of nonprofits, who are on boards yourselves, know how critically important that marriage is between a staff and a board. And I'm so emotional right now. Does anyone else get tired and emotional? Okay. Okay. We have an amazing board. So if you're a board member and you're still in the room, you're not at the bar yet, can you stand up and we can acknowledge you as board members? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so this is our team again, small but mighty. We're currently 9 people. And every one of them has put so much into making this happen today. But there is one person in particular that needs to be acknowledged with something that Nefesha is going to bring out for us. And I want to call out Terry Ball to the stage. Oh my God. So Terry has been the project manager for today. Yesterday, we also were hired to do the SLP convening, and tomorrow for Advocacy Day. I don't know how many pieces and parts she manages and how much duct tape and things that she has in her car, but it's incredible. And everybody needs a Terry Ball on their team. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
We had to sneak those flowers in because Terry's in charge of the flowers. And I said, well, just put them, aside because Terry's also the person who will never think that they're for her, right? And her incredible wife, Vicky, who is I think she's this equity or a set.
She's a USA lighting designer.
She's a USA lighting designer, right? She's a high-level lighting designer. She's a professor of lighting as well. And we get her as part of the package deal. So Vicky, thank you. All right, so I would also ask that you do one more slide, please. So this is how we're gonna grab you now. We're gonna ask you, yes, the QR codes, which were brought back during COVID, right? We all forgot about QR codes, but they're back now and everyone knows how to use them. This is the survey. And it's really, really important we get your feedback. We only do this because we want to serve our community and we want to do it as best as possible. And that's really critical for us to hear from you and for us to listen and for us to keep our eyes wide open and to be humble and have humility in producing events like this. So thank you for doing that. And I think, next slide, if you got all that. All right, so all I'm gonna tell you is this, you are all part of this. We cannot do any of this work without you. It would be really, really lonely and ineffective. And so you are all a part of this. You are a part of this movement to advance arts and culture, to center artists and cultural bearers, to make sure our communities are grounded in the transformative power in arts and culture and creativity. And you are all doing that on a daily, so I thank you so much for all the work that you do. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. And then I just would love to do a group photo, and I invite anyone, honestly, at this point to come up on the stage if they'd like. There are stairs on either side, and come take a photo with us. And then I invite you to go out there, drink, party. You can drink water, iced tea, or you can have beer from Sierra Nevada, our sponsors. You can have wine, and you can also have some mixed drinks that are also from our sponsor, Milestone Brands. And they just came on board recently. And also, we have vendors here today, upstairs, some artisans here from Sacramento, including an amazing bookstore, some visual artists, some jewelers. So we invite you to go upstairs. There's more food. There's the DJ Rock Bottom, and there are the cocktails and everything else, and that is all part of your admission ticket. So please enjoy that, do it, and now join us up on the stage. And with that, we call the second annual Arts and Culture Summit a wrap.
That's a wrap on our insightful panel discussion. A big thanks again to Jonathan, Felicia, Lila, Andrea, Megan, Anne, and Shira for sharing their valuable perspectives. Ready to dive deeper and make a difference? Head over to voicesofthecommunity.com and click on Where Art Meets Impact and check out episode 6 to learn more about each organization featured on our panel. While you're there, explore the other 5 episodes from Season 2 of Where Art Meets Impact and catch up on Season 1's 10 episodes we co-produce with Arts for a Better Bay Area. Support your local arts community by volunteering, donating, and speaking up at your local government agencies. Stay connected and informed by subscribing to our newsletter. And remember, artwork is real work. Let's champion policies that recognize and value the vital contributions of artists and cultural bearers. Thank you for joining us for Season 2 of our special Arts and Culture series, Where Art Meets Impact. Today's episode was made possible through our co-production partnership with California for the Arts at their second annual California Arts and Culture Summit. Special thanks to our technical crew, audio and video wizard Eric Estrada, and our production partner Bayvac Media and their team Paula Argoni, Andy Konami, Javon Giles, and Clay Go. Thanks to Casey Nance from Citron Studios for the graphics magic. A special thanks to our broadcast partners who help share these important conversations. KSFP LP-FM in San Francisco, KPCA LP-FM in Petaluma, Petaluma Community Public Access TV, and Bayvac Media's SF Commons Public Access TV. Thank you for your commitment to amplifying diverse voices and perspectives. Please support these partners and our mission by tuning in and spreading the word. Voices of the Community is made possible by generous support from the Zellerbach Family Foundation, dedicated to ensuring vibrant work is created, new voices celebrated, and diverse communities have opportunities to thrive. Learn more at zff.org. We're also supported by the Peaceful World Foundation, fostering a culture of global peace through hosted conversations and education. Discover more at peacefulworldfoundation.org. And we love your support to continue to make shows just like this one. Go to georgecoster.com and click on the donate button. Take Voices of the Community with you on the go. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Enjoying the show? Please rate and review us. It helps more people discover these important stories. Watch past and future episodes on YouTube by searching for Geo Coster. Have feedback or ideas? We'd love to hear from you. Email george@georgecoster.com. I'm George Coster from San Francisco. On behalf of our team, thank you for joining us. Until next time, remember, your voice matters.